Welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. We're going to have a new feature called The Viewpoint. And I guess the first person is going to do this viewpoint. Jack, are you ready for your viewpoint?
Possibly.
He's possibly ready. So let's turn it over to Jack for his viewpoint. Kind of new for Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. Jack?
One of the things that we discuss here on Pro Wrestling Inside and Out a lot of times is, how much better professional wrestling was back in the day as compared to what it is now. But it's all a matter of perspective. Certainly, if I were going to sit down and pick what I wanted to watch, I would certainly tune up stuff on YouTube or the WWE Network or whatever from the 70s. That was my era. That's where I learned to love professional wrestling at its fullest. But you can't compare today's product with yesterday's standards. It's apples and oranges. Instead of downplaying or putting down today's product, I think there's a lot of good out there. It's different. It's not the way that we did it back in my time, and that's not to say it's any worse or any better. It's just different. So I encourage everybody, if you're going to watch wrestling, it's out there, whether you want to watch the old stuff, the new stuff, or whatever. But support above all else. Go out and support some of these indie wrestling shows that are out there. These are the young talents that are out there that are struggling, that are trying their best to learn their craft, make a living doing what they're doing. It's not their fault. They're stuck with a different set of standards than what we had back in my time. And again, whether that's right or wrong, it's simply the way it is. So if you don't like what's out there on TV now, and that's understandable, go find you an independent show. Go support these folks. Go buy their T-shirt. Go buy their pictures. Give them that love. Give them that support. Show them that what they're doing at the grassroots level, where they're trying to learn their craft and actually trying to be professional wrestlers first and foremost. Go out there and support those folks. I talk about this a lot on my Facebook page. Anybody that's not friends with me, if I'm not sure what my limit is now, but you can follow me even if you can't friend me per se. But you can see all the stuff I post. I love this industry. I always have. Always will. A lot of things I'm doing. I'm fixing to start writing a column for a website, WrestleSouth.com. Come out and find us at the shows. But support professional wrestling in whatever form you find it out there. We need you, because we don't want this to die. And it will if we don't have great fans out there supporting either the product from before or the product now. It's all about the fan base. And I, for one, appreciate and love every one of
you. And that's Jack's viewpoint on professional wrestling. Now, I will tell you that all wrestling has always been different. If you go back and watch 1950s, they were actually wrestling with fish at some point.
Yep.
That's what they just were. They were having wrestling matches with ladies and they'd put mud in the ring in the 1950s. So it's no different. It's no different than the 1950s as probably it is today. Wrestling changed.
One of the recent things we talked about on my Facebook page, some of the folks were talking about Vince McMahon exposing the business and killing the business. And then when I posted stuff about how that happened back in the 1930s, they were like, oh, well. And my point is, people don't care. Really, at the end of the day, they don't care. They either love wrestling or they don't.
Yeah, I read parts of that, and there are wrestlers who disagreed with you, and some prominent wrestlers that disagreed with you. But the truth is, we were there. We saw it, and I think Rodney can chime in on this as we're going through Jack's viewpoint here. It was not always Vince McMahon. It was not Vince McMahon that said to the promoters in Florence, Alabama, take 20 minutes to put up the cage and have a 5-minute cage match. I don't think Vince McMahon sent that to them. And then have an hour and 10-minute show. That was not Vince McMahon. He did not tell them to do that. Rodney, there's another deal. Mobile, Alabama. I think you can tell this story. It was not Vince McMahon that had anything to do with this story you'll tell.
No. Ric Flair was supposed to go against the Bullet for his 577th time. Flair did ask if there was anybody else he could wrestle except for the Bullet. He did say that, and some people would agree with that. However, it grew every time. However, a few months before, Flair said, I will never wrestle in Mobile, Alabama. So the then promoters decided, I'm going to book him anyway. And he told him he would not show up, and he lived up to his promise. He wasn't going to be there. And everybody knew he wasn't going to be there. But neither Mr. Flair, and then when Baba found out that he wasn't going to be there, he didn't show up either. So we had a double substitution for that night. Nobody said anything. Announcement was never made. People were hot. And it was a pretty decent crowd for that night. But they were told in advance. But again, Vince McMahon did not tell Ric Flair not to show up in Mobile. Ric Flair told Mr. Fuller not to, he was going to be there, but Mr. Fuller decided, I'm going to promote him anyway.
And that, my friend, 20 minutes away, even the owner did not show up for his own show. Is that Vince McMahon's fault? No, that was not Vince McMahon's fault. Georgia Championship Wrestling. Did it go out of business because of something Vince McMahon did? No. It's because a certain wrestler thought that he was a promoter. And sadly, he was not. He was a great booker, great wrestler, but not a promoter. He did not know what it took. He did not know what Jim Barnett did to make Georgia Championship Wrestling successful. Now, even though this was Jack's viewpoint, me and Rodney threw our 2 cents worth as well. This is going to be a little bit every certain times we're going to do our viewpoint. You can't always make everybody happy, and you can't always be nice. Sometimes you just have to give your viewpoint. And we'll see you on the next episode right here on Pro Wrestling Inside Now. You know, I was going to throw up this thing that I made, but I didn't know which one it was. That was.
And wait a second. Now, yes, Brian, he did ask if I saw his poster, and I did. But however, when I read the poster, it was a non-title match. It is a non-title match. I'm sorry. You didn't put it was for the championship. It's a non-title match. And I believe that's the way it should be. A non-title match. Because just getting in the ring with me will make you famous. Okay, that's all you need to know. And then when you run around town after the match, you can run around and say, hey, look, there goes that guy that Rodney beat. There goes that Rodney beat. I'll make you famous. I'll make you famous.
He said, oops.
Harold Martin is with
I can assure you, Magnum TA or Tully wouldn't be the only one saying I quit.
Let's see. Harold Martin's with us. This is Referee Radar. Hey, I wonder if he's any kin. Are you any kin to the Radar from the MASH series? I'm a referee of 10 years now. Any advice for the referees, either new or veterans? Rodney, I'll let you.
My opinion is there's never always try to get booked. Try to meet as many people as you possibly can. Because just getting out there, being a part of shows will open up doors. People will say, hey, I know a great referee. It will expand. Just never be afraid to work anywhere. If you have an opportunity to go, try to work somewhere. It will open doors.
And here's what I tell my referees before every event. Don't go out there and look like a fool. If somebody don't kick out, count them. It's not your fault they don't know what they're doing. You take care of what you're doing. You don't make the promotion look bad, and you'll get booked back. And even if the promoter's stupid enough not to bring you back, somebody else will hear about what you did and want to use you because you're a professional.
And always be blind. Always be blind. That's the key to a good referee.
There's an art to doing, to being a referee. Man, I wish that referees were trained the way they were back, when your dad was referee. But and I try to do that, but it's almost a lost art out there.
Michael Barr, if for those of you who do not get to see the interview, it is available. It's September 20th, 2021. If you're watching this video in the future, you will be able to see Teddy Long do an interview with us. It was actually with Rodney and Jack. I stepped out of the way because we knew Teddy Long would be able to say a lot of things. But he talks about professional wrestling, and I think you probably want to see it. Michael Barr is talking about that.
I think that you're getting some of the comments from the other.
Are we really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How am I picking them up?
I'm not sure.
I don't know, but here, I'll throw a current one up.
All right, so I don't know how I'm getting those. I wasn't on there.
Michael Barr, can we do a program on the best and worst gimmick characters or given names to wrestlers? That's a pretty good idea.
That is a good idea.
We could probably do a 40-part series on that.
That's exactly right.
All right, go ahead, Jack. I didn't know that was the same thing.
Richard Hood, Richard. Hello, guys.
Richard, we missed you on the first show.
Michael Barr, will today's wrestlers go or get to the level of yesteryear's wrestling, being they have so much to compete with? One of the reasons, ratings are down. And one of the reasons ratings are down, it isn't all about product. It's also about what else is available out there. Back in the 70s, you only had 3 channels. 4 if you lived in a big metropolitan area. So there wasn't as much going on to compete for the dollar out there. So wrestling was, of course, extremely high, in popularity. And I think wrestling's still popular. It's in the social conscious of the world. I was watching Family Feud today, and they had the question was, what are the most popular sporting events that a man will say that he likes to watch? And it was football, basketball, baseball, and professional wrestling. So, it's still in the social conscience out there. Wrestling's there. Now, can wrestlers of today get to the prominence of a yesteryear star? I don't know. It's not their fault, though. They're not being marketed the right way, at least with WWE. It's yet to be seen whether AEW can break that through and, hit on a big worldwide level like that. It'd be hard to be another Hulk Hogan. It'd be hard to make another Rock. But it could be done if they would determine to do that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with all those things. I don't believe there'll ever be. It's a hard situation today because there's wrestling still at the top of the cable networks. It's still at the top. AEW was top on Wednesday night. Now Monday night, WWE wasn't, but there was a bunch of ball games that were ahead of him. Basically, it was ball games. And so but he's still number one. Wrestling still is marketable. It can be marketable on a local level. It can be marketable on but right now we have so much other things that can get in your way when you're talking local level. But the wrestlers can become stars. But I don't think they ever will become what Hulk Hogan was, because Hulk Hogan, he was able to go into all these territories. His TV was on every place, was on 400 TV stations with the superstars, with what was the Wrestling Challenge. And then they had one more. What was the other one that was syndicated? There was one other one.
Superstars of Wrestling.
Yeah, but there was Superstars of Wrestling, the Wrestling Challenge, and then they had one more that was just like it put all those together. I can't remember the name of that show, but they were in each territory and had great time slots. That's what made them be able to get to 10 million people to watch wrestling, because they built that there, and they always was. The Junkyard Dog was over in Louisiana, so by the time they saw him wrestle so the ratings were great for WWF television in Louisiana, because people watched it for the Junkyard Dog. Very smart stuff, and and in my viewpoint, where I'm going to talk about a little bit of that in my viewpoint, but yeah, I don't think so. What do you think, Rodney?
I don't think so at this point, and it could change. It's just the promotions of today are not interested in the markets themselves, or, as far as I'm concerned, the wrestling fans in those markets. Whereas yesterday's wrestling fans, or yesterday's wrestlers, were marketed into a specific market, such as Chattanooga would have. Say, if we mentioned Chattanooga, if we Tojo Yamamoto, Jackie Fargo, you go up in Knoxville, it's Ron Wright, and other places. You go to Memphis, it's other place people as well. Spectre Monroe comes to mind. And so being there on a weekly basis and being a part of the everyday community is something that is totally missing from today's wrestling. Not sure that it will be ever again, not with the organizations that we have now, because all are using the same model. But as far as I'm concerned, whether it would be in Chattanooga, honestly, my grandmother loved Nick Gula's wrestling better than she did Georgia Championship Wrestling. Just the way it is. It was a hometown feel. It was like the same support that you would give a high school football team, or a professional team at the time, or a college team. That same type of thing, where it's just not there today, because they don't come to the markets enough as many times of the year. So you don't have that following, as far as I'm concerned.
All right, next.
Boxing guy Brian, our buddy Brian. Vince did introduce that awful blue cage monstrosity, though. And I got invited to a wrestling group the other day, and I clicked on to see, because I check them out. And the first topic of conversation was how much everybody loved the blue cage. So I immediately deleted that group from my history.
I hated that cage. You just slam somebody in there. If you just didn't go right good, your head go right through them little holes. But it was their cages where you had to escape. I think that might have been their whole.
And that cage probably gave more than the actual ring did. So there's that.
All right.
And honestly, Bill Watts had a cage similar to that.
He did. He did have a cage similar to that.
Yes, and that's because they took bolt cutters and cut open the other cage, and so that's the reason he went to the bar cage.
Michael Barr, Jack, Brent, Rodney. Most of us grew up with wrestling as fans and or wrestlers. With today's technology, how tough would it be to get territories started again? Rodney?
Again, you have that would have to be your main purpose of opening up a company. It can be done. Technology is not our enemy; it is our friend, and it can help us. You just have to be smart when you do it. You can't have, like the Fullers did, the same card every single night and the ssame matches. You have to have different cards. You have to have different matches, and so it can be done. You have to be smart about it, like I said. But it's like I said, you have to have that would have to be your mindset, which is, like I said, none of the others have it at this point. They're all basically following the Vince McMahon model. But the main point when you open it up is that we're going to provide live wrestling events to as many markets as we possibly can. And that has to be their main purpose, because there is nothing more and nothing better than being in a live wrestling show. You can watch it on TV all you want, but there's nothing like being there live.
Yep, I agree.
I agree too. Michael Barr, Rodney, I am challenging you to a title match. Do you accept
I have to defend only once every 30 days. Now, I've already had a mercy match, a non-title match that I have with this Wookiee luchador, which after this match, he'll be back at Taco Bell serving those hairy burritos again. But you know, but I'll get back with you. I'll have my people call your people. We'll see what we can do.
All right. Before we answer any more questions, let's go ahead and get my viewpoint in, and then we'll
Sure.
get Rodney in, and we'll. Can you turn that off, Jack? Because I don't even know where that is on there. I don't even see that on my
Sure.
my list. I have no clue why I don't have that. I don't even have that stuff. That stuff ain't even coming up on mine. All right, here we go. We'll open this thing up. Let me go ahead and find out which graphic is the graphic, because I didn't get to throw Jack's up. That's not mine. Okay, that's Jack's. Okay. Well, I don't have one evidently, so I will not be throwing mine up. It's Rodney's as well. Okay. All right. That's what happens when you throw up all day. You just don't know what to. I think part of my brain went with it. Going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside Now. We started a series here called The Viewpoint. We have listened to Jack's, and now I'm going to give my viewpoint on All Elite Wrestling and if it is good that WWE wrestlers are coming to AEW. This is my viewpoint on AEW. Is it a good idea that they go get WWE wrestlers and put them on their show? Well, yes or no. And or no. Is it a good idea? It has been done for years. You can go back to the 1900s and you brought in professional wrestlers that people knew. The same thing it went on in 1980s. Georgia Championship Wrestling brought in Dusty Rhodes. They brought in Andre the Giant. They brought in Jack and Jerry Briscoe. It has always been done. So is it a bad idea? No. It will always help the bottom line. But here's the problem. When Georgia Championship Wrestling brought in Dusty Rhodes, Andre the Giant, Jim Barnett, and Georgia Championship Wrestling, they paid the arena. They actually paid the advertising. They paid Dusty Rhodes. They paid Andre the Giant. The same thing happened in Augusta, Georgia. The same thing happened in Macon. No one paid them to produce the show. So here's the problem. If you are TBS or TNT or Time Warner and you're buying the show from AEW, wouldn't you sit back and think, wait just a second. It was the WWE wrestlers that got us all the ratings. And now, a year later, contractors coming up. If they can get us a 1.3 with the 6 or 7 wrestlers they brought in, what can Vince McMahon give us on this program? Can you imagine World Championship Wrestling returns to TBS? You imagine the ratings that would get? So I'd be very scared if I, as a promoter, decided, hey, I'm just going to bring all the WWE wrestlers in. If AEW is being bought, they are being bought, those shows are being bought for X amount of dollars, I'd be very scared to bring in WWE wrestlers, because why go get the second rate when you can get number one? Why buy from second rate when you can buy from number one? That would be the scary part on my part. Now, they say they brought the wrestlers in because they wanted to get other people over. Well, they brought in Matt Hardy. Who did he get over? They brought in Jon Moxley. Who did he get over? Well, they brought in several. Chris Jericho. Who did he get over? You have to say, do you have a plan to get them over? But will that plan be able to go? Because will the buyers that are buying that program decide, well, it's all WWE wrestlers anyway, we might as well buy the WWE? That would be my problem. And that's my viewpoint on whether or not it's good or bad to have AEW and WWE wrestlers show up. Rodney?
When I watch AEW, all I think it's Vince McMahon's garage sale. That's what I think. Yes, ladies and
You see
gentlemen.
what I'm trying to say? If
You
you
swing
are a
by,
buyer
you
of
swing
programming,
by, Vince will be doing a clearinghouse next year, and they'll be able to get some more talent. But absolutely, you guys, is correct. If you're going to buy, why not buy? If you're going to buy a show and it's all his people, why not buy the show from him? You're absolutely right about that.
I'd be afraid to do that.
The main thing that I feel is that they've, without having their own star, and they haven't developed one, and they have the vehicle to create one. I don't think they ever will. I don't think of it. You know, I think we were talking about the guy that talked about somebody's family last week. I forgot his name now. But I can tell you, if the guy really wanted to be pushed, he would have went to work for Vince McMahon first, and then Tony Khan would want to push him. And if I was those people who've been signing there and been there part of it since day one, and I'm getting the back seat, and at least put me against him when he comes in. But no, they're going to come in, and guess who's going to get to put him over? The guys has been there over the while. Those people are not there. We have to go back. Ric Flair, when he came back to WCW, he got nobody over. He did not. They were concerned about getting their own checks and maintaining their own position. Hulk Hogan the same way, Randy Savage. And when it came time for them to do that, all of them up and left, or they folded. Then Vince buys them out. But yeah, I agree.
I do not want to see AEW not succeed. I just believe and I'll tell you what happened one time. We sent a proposal over to WGN, and we had people like the Honky Tonk Man, and just a lot of people that we thought, because they were in WWE at one time, or at that time it was WWF, that we could sell this program to them. And the guy said, these are the exact words he said. He said, "Why don't I want to buy this? This is the WWF." He said, why don't I just call WWF and get their program? Sure. So you got to be very careful. You got to be very careful in doing that when somebody buying your programs. See, Georgia Championship Wrestling, nobody was buying their stuff. They were promoting it themselves. So you got to be very careful that they don't say, those guys sitting on there, they're not wrestling fans. But they do understand buying television programming, and they're going to look at that when it comes up time for renewal and go, let's see what they've got. Because I'm telling you, can y'all imagine the World Championship Wrestling returning to TBS and just the whole thing that could happen to that? It'd be incredible. Jack, your thoughts, your viewpoint.
Well, they were in the process, AEW, of building, I think, a guy that could be a top guy for them, and that was Hangman Adam Page. The guy had the look, he had the charisma, he had the ability in the ring, but more importantly than all of that, he was getting over huge with the audience. So they start building him towards this title shot that just disappeared. There's no explanation. He's just pushed back down the card. From what I understand, there's no heat towards him. He didn't do anything wrong. They just got, hey, we're going to be bringing Daniel Bryan in, so we're going to push him to the side. We're going to put Daniel Bryan in that position for right now. Or we're going to put, who else that we're bringing in, CM Punk, whoever. We're going to push them to the top. Well, they're already top guys. And it was like they were bringing in CM Punk. Okay, and Punk even made the speech about, I'm coming here because there's great young talent and I want to work with them. Okay, maybe he will, and maybe he will build some of that talent down the road. But right now, Darby Allin was one of the top guys. They were building on their own, and he came in. They had a good match, and he beat him. He just beat him. That's not how you build your guys.
The worst thing, the worst thing ever, was when Hulk Hogan came to WCW, and within weeks he was in the main event against Flair for the title, if I'm not mistaken. And in fact, I think he actually beat Flair. Hulk Hogan should have never seen the day that he was a WCW champion, ever. He should have never seen the day. I don't say that he wasn't good for the card, but I believe that put that title on Hogan was a terrible mistake, especially over Flair. Flair could have dropped it to somebody else and then in a roundabout way get it to Hogan, but no, he came right in and beat him right off the bat.
By the way, Bill Dundee had a major problem with that. That he came in and beat him. Our viewpoint and my viewpoint is I don't want to see AEW not do well. I want to look at it on a long-term basis. I want to see it on a long-term basis. Will that hurt Tony Khan and AEW if he continues bringing WWE wrestlers in? Ratings do continue to go up, and then the people say it took the WWE to make it draw. And I think that you really cause short-term fine, but long-term, WCW couldn't get Steve Austin. WCW couldn't get The Undertaker. At some point, that talent base is not going to be there. So where do you stop? Where does it stop when you keep on getting WWE talent and keep on getting WWE? There is some point that the buyers of this television program, if they are buying it, now they may not be buying this TV program. Now, I don't know. They may be paying them. I don't know. If they're paying them, oh, man, that ain't too smart as well. But here's the deal. At some point, the buyers are going to say, it's all WWE guys. Why are we paying him when we could be paying Vince? And that's just the bottom line of this. If you enjoyed this, give us the big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, go one step further, hit that notification bell. And coming up, you've heard Jack's viewpoint on professional wrestling. You've heard mine. But, boy, you haven't heard anything yet. Rodney's coming up on the next video right here on Pro Wrestling Inside Now. All right, go ahead and hit some people.
Build up for nothing. I don't understand. Go ahead.
Daniel Lang. Hi, guys. You guys remember a wrestler named Big O in GCW for a cup of coffee in 1981. I can't find much information about him. Well, Dan, that's because he wrestled me in Dillard's Music Park in 1985, and he retired after that. So
he was kind of like Sweet Daddy Sika, wasn't he?
He was, but wasn't as good.
I thought he was more like an Ernie Ladd. For whatever reason,
didn't he have white hair?
He did.
He did, and he had the thumb too. Did he not have the thumb, tape thumb like Ernie Ladd?
Yes. He did.
Well,
hey, I watched the show.
Luke Graham had a thumb too. I didn't think he was like that.
And he taped it in 1981, and it still had the same tape in 1985.
I watched the show from years, I can't remember what the year was, and Ernie Ladd was on the show. I think he might have been going against Bruno Sammartino, but Luke Graham was on the same show, and they both used the thumb on the same night. So by the way, we grab about super kicks, but they use the same thumb thing during that whole show. All right.
Well, that's probably the same type of year that everybody had to. If you broke their hold or something, that you get $1,000. Everybody was doing it. Austin Idol was doing it. Sterling Golden was doing it. Superstar had doing it way before anybody else. It was.
All right. Next one, Michael Barr. Jack, do the referees help the wrestlers while they are wrestling and making the in-ring show better? They're supposed to. That's really, back in the day, that was their job. I can't tell you how many times I was in the ring having a stinker of a match, and Ron West or a plethora of other referees would go, "Hey, do this." Because they were seeing what I wasn't seeing or paying attention to or too green to understand. So they took control of the match. And the match was good, not because of me, because the referee knew what he was doing. Referees today aren't taught to do that for the most part. They should be, but we're relying on earpieces and somebody sitting in the back. I had referees the other day, new referees, and they were like, "We got earpieces?" No, we don't do that here. You learn to do your job. You either don't. If you don't know it now, you're gonna know it by the time you leave here.
If I stand out and you see me on top on that stage and I do that means go home. This is a stinker.
Akbar, been sniffing glue again, Brent?
Well, I tell you what I've been doing is throwing up all morning. I've had some kind of stomach problem. I just can't get over being sick. This has not been my year.
Brian says, got kicked off of YouTube. I blame Rodney. Plus, I looked at the poster behind our photos. It says world title.
It does not. It does not. Apparently, what I see and what you see is two different things. I did not see it on there. So we'll not be doing any kind of false advertising, non-title match. But I will make you famous.
It's a non-title world title match.
Non-title world title match. That's right.
Robert Grice. I don't understand what they're doing to NXT, getting rid of or losing talent. They get talent established and then gone. Any ideas? That is Vince restructuring everything. He wants to take it back to basically what they were years ago, which was a strictly developmental show. I think he got tired of the entire internet, including me, talking about how much better NXT was than the main products. And that he's always treated it like the proverbial, and I'm redheaded, so I can say this, like the proverbial redheaded stepchild. So he basically took it down a notch or two. Now, saying that, I thought last week's episode was extremely good. We got to see a lot of new debuts, which leads me to think WWE could have a future if they'll pull their butts out of their nether regions or their heads out of their, you know what I mean.
Well, this is the viewpoint session.
There you go.
Here's the thing. I thought the show was good, except for the camera shots. Man.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the Kevin Dunn effect.
This thing, it was... All right, there. Let's see there. I mean, this is all that was going on that whole show, and I was thinking, please stay with a shot for a minute because you're making me sick. Maybe that's why I was throwing that. Maybe I still was sick.
That is where the changes come really from Vince's end, was he wanted the arena lit up. Now, I'm not against that. I thought it looked good. He wanted the graphics changed. I didn't mind that either. I thought that, it's very vibrant. It's very eye-catching. I don't mind that. But those camera angles, that was all Kevin Dunn taking over production. He was there. He was on hand doing that. That's his signature thing. And we all hate it. All of us that, don't want to go into paralysis while we're watching something. We hate it. But Kevin Dunn doesn't know wrestling. He's not a fan. So he doesn't get that.
Rodney,
so
did you watch
question, I did not. Any question? I mean, the question I have to ask though is, does that mean that NXT will not be on USA anymore? It's just
it is. It is. It's keeping its regular time slot.
So it's going to still have, the fans are still going to have access to it. It's not going to be it's not going to.
No, it's not. But what they're doing is all those established people on there, the ones that they were pushing, have either been let go or they're moving them to either SmackDown or Raw.
Which is, I mean, that's not.
Well, I mean, that was the objective. So that's why I'm not disappointed with it, because we saw Rick Steiner's son make a debut, a strong debut the other night. Bull Buchanan's son was on there. He in particular, Ben, has only been up there. I think he's been there about a month and a half, maybe, and already on NXT TV.
Yes.
Now that's pretty big.
Yeah, real good.
So and other people. Do y'all remember Wayne Bloom from Bo Beverly? His son was in the main event. First time I'd ever seen the guy. If he'd been there before, I must have missed it. But he did. When they introduced him, I thought, well, this is the guy that's going to get beat during this match. But he did a fantastic job. And reports are that Vince is really high on him. So you know, we may be seeing more guys actually get developed now. You know, if again, I always thought Hunter and Triple H and Triple H and HBK and all those guys, I think they've done an excellent job to this point. And I think a new direction has never hurt anybody if they go with it wholeheartedly, unless you're Terry Taylor.
See, here's the thing. Everything has to change. Everything.
Yes.
You know, the wrestling business has changed. Let's be honest, changed, but everything has changed. And you have to change, regardless, sometimes whether you want to or not. You have to sit back and go, this has to be changed for us to move forward. Now, when we're talking about like Continental Championship Wrestling, and me and Rodney can sit here, we were just griping and complaining that show had to be changed, and it did for it to move forward. And that was nothing could be done to change that show.
Yeah. Michael Barr, I do not want to see wrestling completely phase out. I don't think any of us want that.
No, I don't, and I don't see that. I don't see that as a possibility right now.
Michael Barr, I will have a contract drawn up, Rodney. Be waiting.
Just remember, I just make them famous.
Yeah. Yes, Brent, it would be a good idea if the contracts are running out and Vince is firing them. If they want to wrestle, they have to go somewhere. Could a promotion bring in the second-rate wrestlers from the WWE to make their promotion better? I don't mean this in a negative way, but AEW is bringing in basically what a lot of people say are their second-rate wrestlers. I don't really consider them second-rate. I think they were underutilized.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't Malachi Black in WWE and whatever he is, maybe that's his name in AEW. I can't remember. But they have done some amazing stuff with him with AEW that WWE could have done, but Vince didn't understand the gimmick. So,
and you know, I think it comes down to this. You got to be careful that you don't just keep on using WWE wrestlers over and over again, because there's going to be people, sponsors and stuff, going to look at that, and that's going to be very important. Why are we paying for this when we could get that? You got to be very careful.
Well, somebody was talking the other day about arguing against that, saying, "Well, CM Punk wasn't a WWE guy because he hadn't been there in so long." Well, where did you know CM Punk from? From the WWE. 10% of the people out there watching might have remembered him from Ring of Honor, but everybody knew he was in WWE. That's where, for better, worse, whatever, that's where they make their name at. Brian Young.
That's the reason I call it Vince's garage sale. You don't put anything out there that's new.
Brian Young, AEW should be scared that they will look like a company of WWE castaways. What AEW should do is split in two like WWE did, and then have a big pay-per-view every 6 months where they can wrestle each other as AEW versus AEW / WWE. That's a good idea, actually.
Yes. Yeah. Excellent. And this gives an opportunity for that other show to be able to feature the other wrestlers.
Yeah.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. He's got a good idea here.
Okay.
He should turn that into AEW.
Michael Barr, just for the sake of time, I'm going to skip a couple of your comments. But Richard Hood, fellas, wrestling is subjective according to the territory, and you're right, because people could get over in one territory and didn't get over in the other.
Yes. Fabulous Ones, for example.
Michael Barr.
I just don't see how they ever got over it. You don't know the truth about it. I watched that stuff. It had to be Jackie Fargo. Cannot be them. They had
Michael Barr,
personality at the ring post.
Yeah. Good point, Jack. A promotion that built the talent needs to keep that talent and let them compete against others to build him or her up. But I mean, you should build your own talent, period.
Yes.
Whatever it takes to get that. WWE is its own promotion. They should not take the gratitude for building up someone someone else's promotion. Yeah, but Michael, that's what's happening. WWE is not going out there touting, hey, we made Chris Jericho or anything else. They may take a little snide comment every time, but they're not the ones out there going, we took talent and made something out of them, when Vince didn't, or he got everything he could out of them and cast them aside. WWE ain't saying that.
No.
So,
no.
Big O's name was Roy Obi.
Yeah.
Richard Hood. Rodney, I disagree about Hogan.
Okay, let me be very clear about something now. Let's think about when Flair made his little round through WWE. Did he beat Hulk Hogan for the WWF Championship?
No.
Anyone? How did Ric Flair become the WWF champion? Who did he beat? He won the Royal Rumble, right? He really didn't beat any of their stars there to become WWF champion, did he? And that's my point. Hogan should have never beat Flair at WCW, ever. He could have been, I'm not saying he shouldn't be champion, but he shouldn't have beat Flair to be the champion.
I don't think he should have been champion until he turned heel. I think that would have been a major, I think it would have even got it over even more.
I think you're right.
I'm going to tell you, people were booing him anyway. So Hogan was not over.
And that was one of those things they were trying to push something at WCW. And the fact that he should have probably been brought in the way that he ended up anyway, simply because that he was, I don't understand that at all about WCW.
Yeah. Let's do this last one and then we'll do Rodney. Robert Geis, I was just watching a match between Randy Orton and AJ Styles. It was entertaining. Good job. It's actually still going on because I can see it out the corner of my eye over here. And those two are at the top of their game. You're not going to have a bad match out of those two.
All right. When we do this, we're going to go right off the air, right off the thing with this, with Rodney's deal, because, and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it later on. But because we are running out of time. We've been on 47 minutes, but we're going to do Rodney. And but thank everybody. I want to thank everybody for supporting the channel. We certainly do appreciate it. We are going to try to figure out a different way to for people to support the channel. As we talked about it, there's always some things that can be improved on, and we are going to try to improve on that, what we can do in the future. Sometimes, I'm not able to get the post in that I like to get, especially if it runs on Friday or Saturday and a Sunday, because I am working 7 days a week. So it sometimes does not happen. So we'll be getting with all the supporters and letting you know what we're going to do for that. All right, Rodney, let's go ahead and start. Hey, I've got your graphic here. I think I've got that little graphic. We'll go ahead and throw that on there later on, and we'll get Rodney's viewpoint.
Well, it's not going to be 10 minutes. I can just tell you right now. All right, now we have been doing.
Let me do the opening here. Let me hit the opening here. Going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside. Now, this is the viewpoint. We have heard Jack Lord's viewpoint on certain things of professional wrestling. If you have not seen his viewpoint, look down below. That is available for you to see. If you've not seen mine, wait till the end of the video. It will show up at there. You'll see the viewpoint. Now, it's not only just Jack's or mine's viewpoint. It is also, we get together afterwards and we give our viewpoints. And now it's time for Rodney's viewpoint. Rodney, take it away.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have been doing the top 100 wrestlers for the last few weeks. And of course, we're going to go all the way up to number 100. And I had a name on my list by the name of Randy Orton Jr. And of course, the reason I call him Randy Orton Jr. is because his father was Bob Orton Jr. So thusly, it has to be Randy Orton Jr. I disqualified Mr. Orton because in this list, no one was told what to do from the time the bell rings to the time it ends. And I don't believe Randy Orton belongs in a list in which it is scripted from the very moment you get in the ring until you get out. Most of the wrestlers that we have so far listed, The bell could ring. They could not have even talked to their opponents and be able to work out a fantastic match on the fly. My question is, how many today could do the exact same thing? I have went to current wrestling events in the last few years in which wrestlers appeared, take this, in the ring before the doors open, walking through their matches. You would have never have seen that back when we were growing up. In fact, if you would have been caught doing that, you'd have been fired. Fact of the matter is that I think Randy Orton for today's wrestling is just absolutely outstanding. But when it comes to doing something on the fly, such as if someone should get hurt and all of a sudden, hey, Randy, you got to run out and you got to do a match with whoever's in the ring. How many could actually do that? I'm not just talking about Randy Orton, but how many of today's wrestlers could actually go out, put together a match on the fly, call it as it comes in the ring? Every wrestler that's on our list so far on our top 100 is from Thunderbolt Patterson and next week's Dutch Mantel, the King, one of the great wrestlers of our time who could actually do that. Seen wrestlers not knowing what needs to be done. Nobody knew what it had to be done. Brad Armstrong and Buzz Sawyer comes to mind. When Tommy Rich and Roddy Piper were late, they were not told what to do. They didn't have to sit through hours and hours trying to work out the match. They did it on the fly in the ring, and it was one of the greatest matches I'd ever seen in my entire life. 45 minutes of Buzz Sawyer and Brad Armstrong. No script, no layout, nothing. That's the difference of today, as far as I'm concerned, with today's sports entertainers and the wrestlers of yesterday. Myself, many people may say, well, the wrestlers of today are more athletic. Sure, you're athletic as long as you can do your acrobatic routine. But when it comes down to, can you do it without somebody laying it out for you? That is the test of how talented you really are. That is my point.
Very good point.
I'm going to put an amen on that.
I had him. I actually had Randy Orton Jr. down, and I said, does he really belong on the same list of Buddy Roberts? I don't think so. Does he really belong with Les Thornton or Rip Rogers? No. And I know it's totally two different times. But when it comes down to it, if I said, okay, hey, Randy or anybody, let's just say Riddle. Hey, Riddle, go out and have a match with so-and-so and you just go to the ring. Well, I haven't had time to talk to him about it. Forget it. Just go to the ring. Go do it in the ring. Every wrestler that I grew up with could do that. I don't think today's can.
I don't think they could. You know what? I think what's made it even worse is them not wrestling, but on television. That's the only time they ever get to wrestle. They don't get to go out to the shows. They don't get to work and learn their craft. They're not really getting to learn their craft. And just working on television is not going to be able to do it because it's a completely different situation. You do have, sir, even in the old territory days, you didn't have time to learn your craft on television because you were told, all right, you got 3 minutes. Boom, 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 boom. Go out there and be careful because you do the boom, boom. Brad will get mad because that's always his spots. So be very careful. Brad Armstrong didn't like that. But this is the thing about professional wrestling. And I think this is the difference between sports entertainment. It is all a scripted program now. Is it bad? No, I don't think it's bad. Do I watch it every time it comes on? No, but it's not because I don't like it. I just don't have that much time to watch wrestling. There's a lot of wrestling on right now. You spend 22 hours watching wrestling these days. But is it bad? No. Is it as good as what I thought? No. But guess what? If you're 18 to 34, you didn't watch it. So you don't know if it's any good or bad. You just don't know. You believe, you probably go back and go, oh, man, I don't like that old wrestling back there. We're all different. We're getting older. All of us here, we're all getting older. Now, do I think pro wrestling can make it today? Yes, I believe it could be done. Do I think that style could work today? Yes. Is it going to be done by anyone that has? No, because they'll be afraid to do so. They want to do what WWE is doing, so they're just afraid to do it. If someone could do it, you would make money. There's no doubt about it. Because it's not being done. Professional wrestling is not being done. Sports entertainment, and you can see that everywhere, every day. And Jack, your comments, and then we got to go.
I came in during that transitional period between the guys who could go out there without anything other than the finish of the match. The vast majority of the time, that's all you ever got. So, that's the way I learned in the business. But towards the end of my career is when all the calling everything in the back got going on. And I understood things were changing. And I would, to a certain point, go along with stuff that guys wanted to call. I still played upon the crowd reaction. So if what they had called and what they wanted to do was not working, I would cut them off. Those guys would be completely lost then. And they didn't understand until we'd get in the back. Well, why did you not do what we talked about? Because what we talked about wasn't working. Because when people are sitting on their hands or they're getting up going to the concession stand, that's not the kind of match I'm willing to have. So I would change that thing. Now, guys aren't taught to do that. And at the independent level, I think it's so important that they still need to be taught how to do that. Now, when you get to AEW or you get WWE or, New Japan, any of these big companies, you're right. They're going to lay things out. Everything is going to be scripted from probably how many breaths you take during the match. Maybe, it may be regulated.
That's right.
But you need to know what happens if a ring rope breaks. What happens if your opponent gets hurt and can't do those 5,000 big moves that you had planned? What happens in circumstances of the stuff's just not going? And hey, think about this. Vince gets on the earpiece and tells the referee, hey, this is terrible. Change it. Well, what are you going to do?
Change it to what?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Somebody that knows how to actually work will know what to do. Even if it's just grabbing a chin lock, but guys aren't taught to do that anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a huge difference. Huge difference in the way we did it, the way it's done now. Like you say, I'm not saying today's way is bad. I'm not saying yesterday's way was perfect. But it just seems like we lost that fan connection along the way. We are more concerned about the people sitting in their living room than the people sitting in those chairs.
And with that, if you enjoyed this video, give us the big thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Go one step further. Hit that notification bell. It will let you know every time we upload a video. Things are going to be changing, and we're going to be talking about some things like this on occasion. Not all the time, but we are going to be, on occasion, giving our viewpoints. Hey, it could be something in the 1940s that we give our viewpoint about. It could be something today. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next video right here on Pro Wrestling Inside Now. All right, guys, y'all ready? Do we need to?
The Wookiee luchador says he's 6'4" and 350 pounds. I don't care about being too big. All I have to say is that I will say 3 minutes. Your tongue will be handed to the floor.
Brian, I'm going to tell you from experience, that little guy can run, and we can't.
Thank you. Thank everybody for being a part of this show. It was a little different. We tried something a little different, and it'll take us a while to perfect it. But I think it's giving our viewpoints on things and not being very mean about it to the people.
I want to comment about this one here. Yeah. I'm sorry, I just don't get that point, Mr. Hood. Why would you let somebody come in from a different company and beat the face of your company from the competitor's company? It makes no sense. Vince did not do that to his face. I don't understand. Maybe
Richard, if you're saying Flair needed to be beat, I don't think anybody's arguing that point. Our point is it shouldn't have been Hogan.
Exactly right. Right.
Oh, can you get audience? Yeah, you watch AEW. They get their audience involved.
They sure do.
I cannot argue AEW. The fans are there. They are, I mean, they are behind that show. Am I wrong about this?
Nope.
They love the product. They absolutely love it. That doesn't matter if I love it. Doesn't matter Rodney, Jack. It doesn't matter if we love it. Those fans love it, and they're watching it. And I have nothing against it. My own thing would be I'd be afraid of doing what they're doing because I'd be afraid that at some point contracts are going to be up, and it's all going to be WWE guys that gave them the ratings. And then I don't know if I would want to be in that position. I just don't. You know, believe me, it's not fun to be on that.
Their argument saying, but we took Vince's garbage and we made them into something that will not work when it comes by to renewing the contract. So we did that. We're the ones that put them in the position that they were in to get.
They're not going to look at that. They're going to say, well, wait a minute now, but on so and so day you brought in CM Punk. He was a WWE wrestler. Well, just think if CM Punk could get that ratings, man. What if Brock Lesnar was on our network? That's good. I'm afraid that's going to happen. And I hope it doesn't for him. I hope it doesn't. I just know I was on the end of a conversation where the WGN people, it was like a conference call, and they all said, well, geez, why do we need these wrestlers? Just wait, we can go get WWF product. Why would we need yours? That's all that's on there. You know?
And in fact, I think they did. I think they did have a show on there for a while. I think Superstar was on there for a while.
So I've been there, done that. I just, what it was the old saying, I've been to that rodeo and rode that bull, and I would not want to be riding that bull again if I was them. It just happens. It's happened to every wrestling promoter at some point. It's happened to the territories. Let's be honest with you. Why do I want your show that looks dark and dingy when I can get Vince McMahon's Superstars of Wrestling? Was there, been there, done that.
Now my question is this: if you're going to pay these big contracts, and your point is to get new talent over, right? Wouldn't you be paying them for the main purpose of getting that new talent over?
They ain't gonna listen to us.
Brian says, feel free to send my suggestions to AEW. Maybe together we can make it better.
Sure.
Hey, I have nothing.
Brian actually has the right idea for them, but I do believe they've taken the developmental, the guys that they were trying to build, and I think you said they put them over on YouTube, didn't they? Took them off the main show and put them on YouTube.
Yeah,
that's
that AEW Dark show.
That's
done at Universal Studios now, isn't it?
Now, yeah, I think they had their first set of tapings there.
All right, well, let's get off of here. It's 9:30, so let's get off of here. And thank everybody. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. I believe, is it All South Wrestling we're doing tomorrow night?
All South, yeah.
All South, I think it's a part 4 or 5. I can't remember what it is, but we'll go back and do that. And tomorrow night, Top 100, we talk Dirty Dutch Mantel. At least that's my pick for 79. Jackson Rodney's might be something else. Thank you guys, and we are off of here, and we'll see everyone